Let's get going here. Hey, so I see Sean coming in. Um, so today we're here to have a conversation. Maybe break out into some breakout conversations if depending on how you want to do this. This is like you're the audience, you decide what you want to learn and how you want to learn it. But it is about, how do we create a effective marketing strategy based on the foundation of maybe where we are, our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, our threats, and maybe where we want to go with our strategic objectives and goals. And some of us have to re-engage in this conversation, re-engage in our efforts, re-engage in our remind ourselves of the things that we already know that we may have stopped doing, or maybe like modernize them because some of the tools and techniques and processes might have improved or changed. So it's designed to be a bit organic. So if you have questions, go for it. I'll ask some questions. Like I have some predetermined questions I'm going to ask, but we're going to ask Samantha and we're going to ask Allison. So let's start with Samantha. So Samantha, you're with KWB Accounting. So marketing consultant, marketing.
I'm a marketing manager, KWB. Been here for 3.5 years, which is like a decade if you're a millennial like me. I have my communications degree from Carleton University in Ottawa, and I've been doing marketing and communications for over 12 years, and I really, really love marketing. And I'm excited to talk to you guys about it today.
You're here because you love it. I like that too. And Allison, you're also with KWB Accounting. So give us a quick snapshot on your role, how you serve this topic.
I am. So I'm the manager of on-site advisory here at KWB. I have been a CPA for 20 years. It's official this year. Got my start with KWB way back when I was a student and returned to them just about 3 years ago to head up the on-site advisory department. So what I do is I work with our clients every day to help them focus on working on their business, making better business decisions and moving the yardstick towards their goals. So I also love what I do, and I'm excited to talk to you about SWOT analysis and goal setting today.
Perfect. And my name is Jeff Eastchick, so I partner with KWB Accounting on a little venture that everybody knows called Phoenix Advisory Group, and where we do Phoenix board sessions and large room events that are fun. So most of you have met me, and if not, don't hesitate, reach out to me, have a conversation about how these things help us all evolve and get better at the businesses we run. Okay, so I'll ask some questions, but please raise your hand. Please drop things into chat. If you have a question about marketing strategy, marketing connection to your strategy, let's drop those into chat and have a conversation that's real rather than the one that I have in front of me here. I have a question about maybe to Samantha. Let's start this off with how much reliance did I have on my gut? Because sometimes I run my business and sometimes it's from the gut. I don't always have all the data that might be needed. So is that a problem? Is there such a thing as a gut feeling that makes sense for you to use?
I think that when you have knowledge and insights that are relevant, I think a gut feeling can be pretty solid. But I think it should also be combined with some actual data, some facts, some research, and that sort of thing. And I think where we can all get a little bit lost sometimes is when we apply little anecdotal experiences that we've personally had, and use those as a foundation for making a decision or for assuming everybody else thinks that way too or would also like that. So I think you need to be a little bit careful, but I think if you have the right kind of expertise and knowledge, your gut feeling can be really valuable. But just make sure you're pairing it with some market research and some evidence as well.
And so assume that I'm not doing any marketing. Where do I start? Where's the right place to start?
When you're building your marketing strategy?
Yeah, like how do I start the marketing strategy? What help us out? Like where do we go to begin?
Yeah, I think like the first thing to kind of be aware of is that whether you kind of mean to or you're aware of it or not, you're always marketing. You're always making an impression on the people that you work with, the people who come across your information, the people who talk to the people you work with, and that sort of thing. So you always are kind of putting yourself out there and making an impression. And when you actually put like a strategy around that, that's when you can take control over the outcomes that you want to have, the people that you're reaching, and the type of like narrative around your business and what you want to say. So having a strategy is super duper important. I would say that it all starts with, for me anyways, and I think it's a good way to start, is with a SWOT analysis. Really understanding and doing that on a regular basis. Like we do that annually. And just using that as understanding your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats is really, really helpful. And you can use some of that information, specifically like the things that you're good at, those strengths that you can use to highlight, like that you can use that to turn into some of your content and your messaging to highlight what sets you apart, what makes you a great choice for potential customers and that sort of thing. And then goals. I think having goals in place at the beginning of the process is really important. And I think fairly often those goals are related to revenue. So you know how much more profit you want to achieve for your business. And then figuring out from there how many new clients or new pieces of work you need to achieve that profit. And then once you kind of have an understanding of what you're good at, what you maybe need to manage or minimize, and what your overall goals are, that's a really great foundation for figuring out your marketing strategy for how to achieve that, who you want to reach and with what messaging and tactics and that sort of thing.
I'm gonna switch over to Allison for a second. So Allison, like you do SWOT analysis with clients, with your firm. Like, why is it important to you?
I think it's really important because it's an easy thing that you can do. It doesn't cost you very much other than a little bit of time. And it gives you a really good snapshot of where you are today. So if you're in the room with trusted people and you're being honest and writing everything down, it will give you kind of a snapshot of where you are today, which is always the starting point for figuring out where you want to go and what those goals are going to be to reach. So it's just important to have a snapshot and the documentation of where you are today.
And Allison, how would you define what a core strength is? Like what do you see as something that is core to a business?
So a strength in my mind is your source of competitive advantage. So it is what you are doing well, what you have nailed down, what you do better than your competitors. It's what, like Samantha said, what you're going to leverage into your messaging when it comes to marketing to tell your target audience why they should pick you.
All right, let's take a small break and ask Scott, Bob, Raj, Jody, Darren, any questions on SWOT? Any questions on who uses SWOT right now or has used it in the past in their firm? And did it go well? Did it go poorly? Let's have a quick conversation. Scott, you're off mute. Let's start with you and then Bob.
Yeah, I mean, we've done some SWOT analysis, like on some listing pitches for properties specifically. So identified like strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats for certain properties. I think we've done a bit of one for ourselves individually when we did like a personality test a few years back to see where we kind of fit into the 4 different personality quadrants. But I haven't really done a formal one in the past couple of years.
Perfect. And any questions about SWOT before I go over to Bob?
No, not really.
Not really. Okay, Bob, you came off mute pretty quick, so I should have went to you first. But do you use the tool? Have you used it in the past? What have you learned? What have you not liked? What have you liked?
I've used the tool a few times in the past. Something that I had not done, which I'm learning from this meeting, this get together, is written documentation. Maybe is important to refer back. I have had meetings with our group on different items using the SWOT analysis approach, and we go through it, but then the documentation doesn't follow. So maybe that's something I need to do better.
Yeah, Bob, that's key, because sometimes we have a great meeting, but we aren't able to take much action because we didn't really capture the notes or the process. Yeah,
Nice
love
to be
that.
able to use it as a yardstick so that you can look back in a year, even 6 months, 3 months to see, how am I doing? Are we making any progress? Have we gone in the right direction or the wrong direction?
So Allison, do you see it as every 6 months or once a year tool? How do you
The rhythm is going to be different for everyone and depending on the business. I recommend it definitely annually at a minimum. If you're in a high period of change and a high period of growth, you might want to be doing it as much as monthly even, but that specific rhythm is going to be really customizable depending on circumstances. The important thing is that there is a rhythm. So some kind of repetitive and a plan around that rhythm, right? Like I'm going to check back with myself in 6 months and see how we're doing.
Thanks, Allison. Raj, you're off mute. Any thoughts or questions on a SWOT analysis?
No, maybe I'm most similar to Bob. Like, I've done it in my mind, have done it with team in our minds and not documented it. So that's maybe number one, is like put it down on paper. But also a couple of the comments from Allison kind of resonated with me. Like, I don't feel like I've progressed from whatever that SWOT analysis is. I haven't moved the yardsticks ahead consciously, and maybe I'm even our practice, our own worst enemy, we're just always busy doing, but is to actually have some steps or have some action plan with dates and assignments, delegate it, and then to revisit it and make sure that you're moving towards some progress, right? Otherwise, this just becomes an exercise, a bit of a futile exercise in the way I've done it, probably. So I like some of Allison's comments in terms of rhythm and memorializing it, kind of, and revisiting it. Did I move it ahead?
Sean or Jody, I know you're on camera right now, so I don't know if you're actually there or not. Any thoughts or questions on SWOT? Do you do them internally? Do you have success or questions about them?
Yeah, so Jeff, we've done them a few times. And can you hear me? Sorry, I was just having some mic issues there, but yeah, we've done them a few times. But I really resonate with what everyone else has said, because when I was on my own, because I ran my own practice for some time, we were never really, I personally, I guess, but we used my old team, like we weren't getting as many results because we weren't writing them down or keeping ourselves as accountable. Whereas on the Schiller Spence team, like we incorporate, I wouldn't say it's a formal SWOT, like, because I think we've moved past using that as a tool, but we really now analyze our strengths and what's going on in the market and how we continually evolve to, like, I guess, be like the number one at what we do. But the only way that you do get ahead is if we constantly have things to look back at these quarterly reviews and go, did we live up to this? Did we do this? Where are we at? If not, how do we get there? And why aren't we living up to those commitments to improve? So it really resonates with me that if you don't have the goals written down at the very least, it's hard to keep your partners or even yourself accountable to be moving your brand forward the way you want to, whether it's, again, how you engage in client service or marketing projects, or even how, for us, you do the planning in the background. So yeah, I really do buy into, like, if you don't write it down, it's probably not getting done. And to quote Raj, it's probably a little of an exercise in futility, because you keep doing it and doing it and doing it and talking about your strengths, but you don't improve. You know what I mean?
Darren, you got your hand up. I can ask you a question, but go ahead. You can ask yours.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask mine and then you can jump in. So this is maybe for Allison. So what do you what's the audience that you recommend for participating in a SWOT exercise, right? So we, around the table here, we probably have sort of business owners, right? Those organizations may be larger, so there could be, senior management, sort of group, and then there's the worker bees as well, right? So is there a sweet spot as to who you involve in that SWOT process? Does it change from different times, evolve? What are your thoughts there?
I think there is a sweet spot. One of the nice things about doing a SWOT analysis is that it's somewhat flexible. It can be done independently by yourself. The more people that you bring to the table, I guess to a limit, you don't want 100 people in the room, obviously that's going to be a little overwhelming, but if you have a handful of people that are trusted, that you feel safe with talking about everything, and everybody in the room kind of feels safe to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, so to speak. That can be a really powerful source of new ideas coming out, and just people that will challenge each other and think differently can be really valuable in the process as well, because it's all about brainstorming, right? So the more people you have to contribute to that process, the better.
Yeah, and to further Allison's comments there, like on our team, we have everyone do kind of the strengths and weaknesses of their own role. Because we find the management team understands our market opportunities and threats very well. Like we understand our marketplace environment, but we actually have everyone kind of write down what we call what's going well and what's going bad. And then we kind of take it back into a smaller group. Because again, the worker bees, if you will, usually know what's going on in their roles a lot better than the guys managing them. So we find that's kind of work to boil it down to more of like decision makers in the room when it's important, but then you still get the full feedback of the organization.
Perfect. Thanks, Sean. David's got his hand up.
Yeah, well, I was just going to add, I believe Allison's mentioned this to me, but I really think that if it's possible, it's a great add-on is that if you can find a couple of people that are outside of your organization, right? Those people that are good business partners with you, maybe even a valued client that would be honest and open and you would trust, that kind of a thing. The perspective that you can get from somebody outside the organization could be huge as far as helping you with some SWOT analysis.
Yeah, I really like that outside perspective, like, kind of what we do with Phoenix roundtables and Phoenix board settings is getting outside perspectives outside of the bubble, because sometimes inside the bubble, all decisions look the same, all, outcomes look the same. So I really like that, David. All right, I'll keep rolling here. So we actually answered a couple of the questions that had next line teed up. I'm gonna transition a little bit more, so Allison, do you lean, like, would it be more towards a short-term outcome or a long-term outcome? Like what type of goals where do you start? Do you start with a shorter term goal or a longer term goal?
You definitely start with the longer term. You wanna kind of aim for the fences, so to speak, and you want to talk about where do you want to be in that longer term. And then once you decide that, you can dial it back and set shorter term goals within that timeline, because those shorter term goals are going to be guided by the ultimate long-term goal. So you want to start long-term, move into the shorter term, and then once you've got all those goals set, you can start to talk about tactics, which is how are we going to do this? How are we going to get there?
Yeah, in my experience, sometimes we start with the tactic and never
everybody jumps right to the tactics. Yeah, that's a pretty common thing.
Easy. And that's that narrow perspective, because sometimes if we all agree on something, we just go, right? Samantha, I wanted to give you an opportunity on short-term versus long-term. How do you view how does this tie into the marketing strategy now, I guess?
Really similar to Allison's response too. Like, so when it comes to the marketing strategy, I'll just use like a lead goal as actually I'll use client goal as the example. So again, going back to that overall strategic goal of how much revenue we want to generate in a new year and how many clients we need to achieve that. So let's say we need 40 clients in the year. So that's kind of long-term goals are typically like 3 to 5 years. So I'm going to pretend that's a long-term goal, a 1-year goal. But then I'll break that up into how many do I need a month to achieve that annual goal of 40. And then from there, not every, lead becomes a client. So we probably need 4 or 5 times the client goal as our lead goal, 4 or 5 times more people that we're engaging with and bringing in as leads to achieve that new client goal. So similar to Allison, definitely breaking it up into those little milestones. And I think that that kind of keeps you engaged in the process and kind of act as like checkpoints along the way and give you an opportunity to adjust and change things and to be agile, and make sure you're continuing to move towards the goal. And maybe you need to change things along the way in order to do that.
So maybe the question for both of you is, how do we predict 3 to 5 years out? How do you see, and maybe Allison smiled first. So Allison, go.
The short answer is you don't. You're never going to get it right. You're never going to be bang on. You're going to use your best educated guesses as far as you're the person that knows your business the best. You've got the most knowledge swimming around up in your head. So you're going to take your best educated guess with the knowledge that you're probably not ever going to be dead on accurate.
Samantha?
Yeah, I think it's less about trying to predict what will happen and instead like planning for what you'd like to happen and creating some action items for yourself around what you want to happen.
Welcome, Scott. Don't know if you have the ability to be on camera or not, but welcome to the group here. Samantha, back to you. How do you like, so we talk about perspective, we talk about seeing the perspectives of others. How do we make sure we have the customer perspective in our strategy?
One of the things I like to do is, so once we kind of figure out who our ideal customer is and maybe what the demographics around that person are, and depending on your business and what you're offering, obviously that target audience is going to be super different. But when you define that, that's super important. And then based on what you offer and what problems you know you're solving, you can determine what are called target psychographics. So the more like the emotional drivers of the people that you're trying to reach, what they desire, what they are scared of, what they're hoping to accomplish, and that sort of thing. And that can be really helpful too. But all of that is kind of guesswork, I guess. Like you might have some insights and some knowledge that help you kind of create that, but you're still kind of just guessing. So I think it's really important to engage with your clients and with people who match the demographics of your clients. So a couple of ways that you can do that are customer interviews. You could take some time to meet with some specific key clients of yours. Maybe you incentivize that in some way, but you take the time to actually talk to them. And this is more like a listening exercise for us. So we're really just trying to ask the right questions and just kind of listen and hear what they have to say. And you can gather so many insights in that way. Another thing that you can do is create like a customer advisory board. So maybe you create like a group of those customers and you meet with them on a monthly or quarterly or whatever frequency basis. And they can provide just continuous like advice and insights and create that kind of dialogue between the client and the business owner that can be super helpful. So I think you can be really insightful on your own and probably get yourself pretty far. But I think actually having those conversations and asking those questions is really important.
I think you answered my next question.
So, oh, sorry, Sam, how do you guys like, does KWB do that currently? And like, how do you approach like the verbiage around those invites and like the meeting layout when you're doing those types of client interviews? Because I think that's kind of something we're missing. Like we're again, we touch all the points inside the organization, but I don't think we're really, like we get these weird client, like we do like these surveys through like a polling agency, but they don't really give us that type of insight from the client's perspective. We just get 5-star, they were great, I'm happy. You know what I mean? It's not very insightful.
Yeah. It's actually something that I want to start doing. It's part of my plan for this year and to start also with next year. And I think it's important to just make it really easy for people to participate in. So and you can do that case by case. Like if somebody prefers a Zoom call or a phone call, or maybe they want you to come and meet them in person or that, make it really simple for them to engage. Don't take up a lot of time. And offer like an incentive of some kind to make them want to participate in it. That's as far as I thought about it so far, but I need to create my own little strategy around it as well, because it's something I want to start doing a lot more of.
No, awesome. I'll probably pick your brain later in the year and see how that goes so we can take some best practices from you.
Before I go to David, sorry, Sean, you do have their connection's not perfect. It does break up a bit, but we got your message though. Before I go to David, really quick, Samantha, why is the customer perspective important?
Well, because that's the person that you're trying to reach. So I think when you understand your customer and you understand what they need and how you're helping them, that can help to build your content a little bit too, and the type of messaging that you want to share, so that you can reach similar people and bring them into your customer base too.
David, question for you, and then I'll go around to everybody else. But when you did these roundtables, did you invite your favorites, your stars, your raving fans, the ones that love what you do, or did you invite a mix, or did you invite those that didn't like what you do? Did you create two different experiences that were quite different when you did this? Like how did you approach the perspective of those customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was more based on their personalities. Who did we think would contribute the most? I think majority of people we deal with like us because or they wouldn't continue to deal with us. So, we didn't really like pick only raving fans. But we picked those that we felt would contribute and that maybe had different levels of service with us as well. Like this, now I would make sure that we picked a good cross section, like those that have our bookkeeping and those that do advisory and those that have our regular year ends and things like that. But it was more based on the type of person we thought they'd be as contributing at the meeting.
Jody, I see you came off mute. Do you have any questions or comments, or do you want me to ask you a question? Jody? Oh, you're back off mute. Could be a technology problem. All right, let's go to Raj. Maybe I'll go to Raj. Raj, do you get your customer's perspective, and how do you do it? What's your current process on this?
Yeah, and you know what? I never have in my existing business. Now, that being said, I guess like our family runs a mentorship program, kind of headquartered out of Saskatchewan, and we've done it there regularly, and for that program. And that's been similar to maybe what David described, where we got a bunch of people around a table, facilitated it with a third party. Yeah, it was tremendous. And in part, I wonder if it's biased too, because it's a nonprofit. Everyone wants to see the nonprofit organization do well. So everyone's very engaged and willing to help with that. But the feedback was absolutely tremendous. But in terms of my business itself here, I've never done that, and I think it's a great idea to do it for sure.
We'll go to Bob, and then I'm going to try Scott and Jody and see if we can get them. But Bob, do you approach for customer perspective, and how do you do it?
You know what it is it's more of a feel, like we started at the meeting. I don't have a formal process for that of gauging the customers. It's just me I work on the business, not in the business any further after 30 years. Probably for the last, I'd say maybe 7 years been working on the business, build the team to the level that I'm able to do that. So now I do get a better bead, I guess, with the customers, because I do touch points with the customers on issues, accolades, whatever that happens to be. So there's no formal process. It's maybe just my personal follow-ups and things like that. But regarding, like Raj mentioned that, even the mentorship portion of the business, I do have one individual that is a business consultant and has been my friend for since the inception of the company. Actually, still remember a flip spreadsheet a flip chart that he used when we were first starting our mission statement 30 years ago, and still provides me that kind of mentorship. So it's definitely good to have that level of support externally.
Bob, Scott or Jody, does anybody want to jump in if they have technology to let them? No? Okay. Yeah, so those that know, I also run a hair salon business with 8 locations and 37 staff. And so what we do for collecting customer data, we actually try and make it as easy as possible for us to get Google reviews and feedback through Google reviews. It helps our algorithm. It helps, you know, getting more awareness to ourselves and our brand. So we actually have our technology linked in with Google's technology, so that every time somebody gets a haircut or a service, a style, a perm, a color service, they get a text message about 15 minutes after they left our salon. It's all automated. We don't have to do it. It doesn't rely on our team to actually do this process. When the invoice gets closed, it times out and sends out a thank you for coming to our service today. We'd love you to click the button here and give us a Google review. So we get good reviews, we get bad reviews, but we get a lot of reviews. I think we get between 10 and 20 a day. So there's a lot of data for us to use in that way.
I think we kind of talked about like a few different ways of communicating with our customers here. Like getting regular feedback is awesome. Obviously, that's something you want to do. Asking for reviews and testimonials can be really helpful, and you can use that content to promote yourselves as well. But if we're thinking about like your marketing strategy and your content strategy, it's a little different than just getting feedback and reviews and testimonials. It's more about understanding your customers' behavior, and figuring out how you can create content around that and address that and promote yourself with that insight in mind too. So there's like we talked about basically three different ways to do that. And they're all great. They're all really important. But I think when you're deciding what to do, you need to be really focused and intentional on what you're trying to achieve so that you can approach it in the right way, whether it is feedback and reviews, or if it's wanting to understand how your customer's brain works a bit.
Great transition, Samantha. I'm coming right back to you now. How do you approach content in your marketing efforts?
One of the key things is deciding what your overall foundational message is going to be. And oftentimes that's directly relevant to what your business's mission or vision is. And so that's really important to have as well. And I think when you start a business, that's kind of what you have in mind is your overall mission. And so using that as kind of the foundation of all of your messaging is really important. You want to make sure that all of your content is relevant to your business, your customers, and what you're trying to achieve and what you offer. So staying on message is really important. And you can talk about all kinds of different things and, share information in different ways. But as long as it all ties back to that foundational message and your core mission, I think that's really, really important. And it builds trust and it builds your reputation and as being like a thought leader and an expert in what it is that you do. You don't want to go off topic and start sharing, if like your political opinions or your thoughts on honey if you're an accounting firm or something like that. Like you just want to make sure that you're talking about what you know about. And there's kind of a few different ways that you can approach content. I like to think of them as the 3 pillars of content. And you can't really lose if you're doing any of those 3 or if you're combining them. So the first one being lived experience or storytelling. So that's just you sharing your expertise and your knowledge in a way that comes across as like a relatable story or something that resonates with the people that you're trying to reach. There's active learning content. So that can be in the form of webinars, blog articles, infographic videos, where you're offering immediate value and people are learning something from that content. This session is an example of that. Or audience generated content is the 3rd pillar. So that's kind of my favorite one, and it can be harder to achieve depending on your business, but really getting your customers engaging in your content and making it more conversational. So maybe you're posting a question and having people chime in and share their thoughts and ideas, or it could be a testimonial video or something like that, but something where the content is either coming from or is engaging with other perspectives, not just you, but your clients and that sort of thing.
Bob's got a question or a hand up. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, and Samantha, it's so timely that you're mentioning all this. And I just hired a content social media company. Beyond, I have a web-based company that does a lot of web-based Google marketing, but not very good at social media marketing. And so I onboarded a separate company for this, and probably started 3 weeks ago. I never tied the SWOT analysis into the interview ahead of time, but I should have actually, now that I think about it, as we're meeting. And you had some really good pointers on different types of content that they should be working on some of their posts and things like that. Is there any summary I'd love that information that you just went through, and I was like, wow.
I actually have a blog article on that topic I can send you for sure.
Please. Thank you.
No problem.
Samantha, would that be something you sent to all the attendees?
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So a little bit more on like on each of these. I just don't want to run away from them too quickly, but lived experience storytelling. What do you give us an example of something that maybe KWB has done, or something you can share that would help us understand that a bit more?
And they put me on the spot, and now I can only think about customer stories, not our own stories.
Are you allowed to share customer stories?
Yeah, I think so. David, can you think of any examples of our lived experience or storytelling that's just ours? I think we're so customer focused, and like we share client success stories and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what came to mind. Would that not be part of that? Like where we did something and it benefited the client in some way, and so then we're sharing that story. Like I think that would fall into that category, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a combo of lived experience storytelling and then the client or like customer engagement kind of content as well.
Good stuff. Any questions on lived experiences by anybody? Or any thoughts? All right, let's keep going. I've heard you use the concept capture, nurture, convert. Do you have an example of what that would entail?
So that's kind of like another way of looking at the customer journey from when you first engage with them to when they become a customer. So you'll have different content or different tactics that you're using to capture leads to begin with. For example, you might have a lead magnet. Like we have one on our website that says, fill out this quick form to immediately be emailed a personal and business tax planning checklist. You can subscribe to our newsletter, even just organic social media posts. But that's like the content that people are engaging with, that you get to capture them in your database because of that engagement. So they fill out that form to get our checklist, and now I've got them in our database, and now I can begin to nurture them. So once I have them in our database, I can send them our drip email marketing campaign. So I send like a specific message that's based on a theme that rotates every month. So once I've captured you, I'm going to nurture you with content that is hopefully relevant to you if we've done a good job of capturing the right people. And whether that's, timely information that's going to be really useful to business owners, or if it's an invitation to attend an event or a webinar on a topic that you've shown interest in. If it's following up with a phone call to just check in and see how things are going, that's where we get into the nurturing. And then the converting them into clients is kind of just like comes down to timing, really. So you've done a good job of capturing the right people, you're nurturing them with the right content. when the time is right for them to switch accountants, or they're looking for a new product or something like that, they're thinking of you because you've done a good job of nurturing them and now they're ready to convert.
Yeah. Jump over to Allison quickly. I know this is kind of out of order. Sorry, Allison, but yeah, how do we measure something that, like, because I think of an accounting firm, you have to measure results. How do you measure? What do you measure? Why do you measure it? And then maybe we'll have Samantha answer the same question, but let's start with Allison on that one.
Goes back to kind of what we talked about at the beginning. So you're doing your SWOT analysis, and you're tracking that, you're writing it down, you're making a record, and that's your snapshot of where you are today. Then you're using that to set your goals, and at some point you're going to come back and measure your progress against where you started. You're going to redo that whole process to update a SWOT analysis so that you can see the difference between A and B. As well, when you've set specific goals, using a revenue increase goal as an example. So you've set a goal to increase your revenue by a certain dollar value or a percentage by a specific time frame. Then you're going to continue to monitor that along the way. Usually on a monthly basis, you might look at your reporting to see whether your revenue is growing or shrinking. Are you going in the right direction or the wrong direction over time? Accountants, we love to measure things, so that's kind of the easy part where we come in, and we have some really cool tools that we can help business owners use to do the measurement piece. But again, the most important thing there is just getting into a regular rhythm and actually doing it. So everybody knows that we should be looking at our financial reports. Not everybody actually does it. So
Samantha.
When it comes to like my marketing KPIs, it's fairly simple. Well, it feels simple now, although it did take a few years to build the reporting template into the place that we want it now. But my KPIs are really how many new leads have I captured each month? How many of those leads were what we call qualified leads? So people who not only did we capture, but they fit our ideal client criteria as well. So they are like a really good match for us. And how many new clients we had each month. I know that some of Allison's KPIs are how many sales meetings each of us have had a month, that sort of thing. I'm just cheating by looking at my notes here. Oh, I also pay attention to what tactics worked to bring in those leads. So I track what the source was. So if I captured someone because of our newsletter, or because they found their way to our website because they searched for something specific that we answered, or if they attended an event, or if they were referred by an existing client or something like that. So I pay attention to where all of these people are coming from, because that guides where we spend our time marketing. If we don't get any leads from Google Ads for 2 years, we're not going to be paying for Google Ads anymore, because we can see that we're getting a few from our organic search engine optimization. It's all a little bit of trial and error too. Like we were doing some stuff with LinkedIn Sales Navigator that we thought was going to be super great, and just didn't end up yielding any results. And so if something's not working, you don't need to do it harder. It's not going to work any better, kind of a thing. But yeah, I think just paying attention to where everything's coming from, so you can focus your time and your energy on what's actually getting the results that you want.
All right, opportunity for questions from Raj, Bob, Sean, Darren, David, anybody, Scott?
I'll chime in. Samantha, everything you're saying, I'm just like a kid in a candy shop here. and I wonder how am I in business, because I know all these things that I'm supposed to be doing and I'm not doing them. But it's all good. So great reminders for sure. As far as your company's analytic tracking of the organic versus the paid, Google Ads, social media, how does that pie chart work? What percentage do you have on each one of those medias?
That's such a good question. like, you're asking kind of like where we're getting our ROI for the most part? Is that what you're asking? After
Correct,
like
yeah.
a few years of tracking, so we get leads from kind of all over the place, but mostly event based, I would say. And then with like our website content, our blog articles being another great source. When it comes to actual new clients, like 90% of them are coming from referrals, which makes a lot of sense because in this kind of business to business environment where it's so trust based and that sort of thing, at the professional service thing, it makes perfect sense that we're getting a lot of our clients from existing client referrals. Yeah, that's where most of those come from, but we get leads from kind of all over the place.
Well, I like that because that's, yeah, sure, there's investment to attract that referral business and keep constant communication with the referral business versus my business is very transactional where I'm in the window line industry and people,
Yeah.
Customers buy window blinds once every 10 years. And sure, they have, friends and family and things like that they pass it along to, but that once the purchase is done, it's done.
Yeah.
And you can't, and so our Google ad spend is, $4,000 a month, on Google ads. And now it's going to be social media ads and things like that, social media posts. So
and that
referral based is good, but it's not.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense, I think, for your type of business where it's more like product based and still service based, but like more product based. I think that makes a lot more sense. And once you start tracking, I think sometimes the results can really surprise you, and that's where it becomes important to pay attention so that you can be agile and kind of adjust how you're going about things.
Yeah, especially Bob, if you're advertising on different channels, right? It's like, is Facebook, is LinkedIn, is Instagram, like which of those, maybe one of them does super well and you get 80-90% of your leads from there and the others don't. And it's like, okay, well then, geez, let's move our money and we'll just do it just on that social media platform and see how that goes, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely, David. And, it's a little different for me and, confidentiality between this whole group, right? But I guess Hunter Douglas, our main supplier, only co-ops digital ads and no other marketing. So I have to more focus our ads onto that platform versus other things.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Bob.
And as far as your comment about analytics, I have a once a week marketing meeting with my digital marketing individual that loves numbers, loves analytics, and we go through that backwards and forwards of what is producing results. And everything we do, actually, we try and make sure that's quantitative on the results, that we can get some kind of data out of it to make better decisions.
That's awesome.
Hey, Bob, just a quick question for context. How big's your team?
14 staff.
Okay. Good stuff.
Members. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So your questions are awesome. Raj, any questions from you? Any thoughts that you're having on this this conversation? What do you need more from this conversation?
It was phenomenal. Like I loved Bob's comment is to say, oh, there's just so much here thrown at us, so it's tough to capture all of this. So, with Samantha sending out some tools or Allison sending out some tools, that's much appreciated with that blog or whatever it is. So it's a lot to absorb. I would say, my only other comment is related to size, as you say, like when we look at KWB, you're so fortunate to have an Allison and a Samantha or whatever handling this, because I know personally there's no way Darren or David could do this stuff. No offense taken, right, guys? But like it's and I'm kind of in that boat where it's kind of I would have to drive this lead on this. So where my question is kind of, have you looked at kind of involving, circling back to the start of our conversation about AI, have you guys looked at other technology sources to help with the strategy and even the development of execution? And I'm sure we're at the very early stages of that, of using those types of tools to help with these processes.
Raj, it's like you read her notes, like you're
Like drafting a newsletter or a blog, or I'm wondering if someone can do that, if something can, I can just tell it and it'll do it.
Yeah, Samantha, maybe the question I had written down, which is pretty much in that, what does your marketing toolkit look like today? Like what are your technologies you're leveraging? How are you leveraging them? And then maybe we'll see if Allison has an answer on that one. I don't remember if you were tracking something on that too. But anyways, go Samantha. What's your toolkit look like right now?
I think that first of all, it's important to realize like if like you can only do what your resources allow. So I know this conversation, it can be overwhelming and it seems like there's so much that you should be doing, but you can only do what your resources allow. So if you don't have a huge team or you don't have a lot of time or you have to do some of this yourself, that's totally fine. I think that the important part is spending some time to develop a strategy, and then figuring out what frequency your time and your resources do allow for. So maybe you can't post every day on social media, but maybe you can post every week or at least every 2 weeks. And as long as you're consistent and you get into, like Allison was saying earlier, a rhythm that is achievable for you, I think that's a really great place to start. As far as what my toolkits are for making things just easier and more efficient, we have a CRM, a customer relationship management software called HubSpot. There are a lot of different options for varying sizes of businesses and that sort of thing. But that's a really, really helpful tool. It does so much of the reporting for me. It integrates with our website. It allows me to schedule social media right from there. And it can even help draft some of the social media posts using its like own AI feature, which is fantastic. So that is a really, really helpful tool. ChatGPT and like other versions of that can also be really great. It can, if you give it the right prompts, it can produce like a full calendar of content for you. Like if you figure out the best way for you to like communicate that with it, if you say, I want to post on this topic, at this kind of frequency, it can produce a schedule. It can help you brainstorm what that content should be. I wouldn't at this point let AI have full control over what the content actually, is. I think it's a really great tool for brainstorming and for getting a starting point in place. There's a tool called Canva. So if it kind of like replaces a need for a graphic designer in a way. You can create all types of stuff on Canva, from posters to logos, social media posts, flyers, videos, like anything that you can think of that needs to be designed or created, you can do in Canva. It is cheap as heck. It's like less than $500 a year. It's super user friendly. And so that can be a cost and time savings. And if you are like a creative minded person, it can also be a lot of fun. But that's definitely a big part of my toolkit. And then also other marketers, or for you that could be other marketers as well, or other business owners, like the Phoenix environment, basically. But I have a little group of other marketing people that I get together with on a monthly basis, and that's really helpful for brainstorming ideas, helping each other solve problems, and just getting other perspectives and insights, which is really, really helpful. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, some really good suggestions.
Okay.
I really like that you plugged the Phoenix environment. That was awesome. Allison, opportunity for you. What does a toolkit look like for you in this conversation?
I focus a lot on the broader KPIs, so to speak. So revenue tracking your numbers from a more accountant perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
We have a program called Fathom that we really love to help make the numbers look a little more, bring some character into them, help the non-financial minded business owners understand their numbers a little more easily, and make them a little more interesting. So presents the financial information in graphical format or a little more interesting manner. So that would be my main tool that pops to mind.
Good stuff. Opportunity for sharing. Anybody using a tool that they want to share that they use that is pretty cool. It's helping them, helping yourself out get more return on your investment of time and money. Any thoughts from Sean, Raj, Bob, David, Darren?
I mean, similar to HubSpot, I mean, we've got Salesforce that we've subscribed to, but I think and to be honestly, we're not using the tools to the extent that you're using HubSpot, but it's just another CRM tool. So we'll see how we can get it. And it's got an AI feature. I think most of these, that's what's cool, as you're mentioning, it's got an AI feature called Einstein. And so, I'm really keen to see what it can help develop for us and integrate with the database, right? So
once you start putting a lot of data into it, Raj, it's a very powerful tool. So they had it at the bank before and they integrated it in our practice when I came over. But it's garbage in, garbage out. So what I'd recommend is it sucks sometimes to be very like data heavy when you're entering client data or interactions, but the more granular you get on the other end, the better feedbacks and reports you get, right? So it's really like at the bank, we didn't find it was easy to utilize because everyone was like, skipping half the meeting, not putting the client details in. Here we get down to every last segment filled out, and it's starting to be able to produce some pretty cool reports as they update it and things. And again, it gives you more of an insight into some of those KPIs in your own client base and the things that you want to look for to build. And it even shows you some you might overlook. So I would really recommend staying the course with that one. We do find that pretty powerful. And not that I use Canva, because I would probably not even know how to turn it on. But that is what our team uses to make a lot of our marketing materials. So when Dylan's working on those things, he's using Canva for us as well.
Okay, cool. And so you're using Salesforce when you talk about that?
Yeah. Salesforce is our ERP, company wide, organization wide. To be honest with you, in finance, it's industry standard. So at this point, I think 4 of the 5 major banks use it. And about half the brokerage firms, including ourselves.
Okay.
Awesome. The screen moved on me. Lost track of who was.
Darren messing us up.
That's Darren. Darren put his hand up. Oh, that's why.
Just using the tools.
Bob, I'll go to Darren first because he put his hand up and messed up the screen, and then we'll come back to you.
Well, the comment came up earlier. Raj made the comment about just limited resources, right? And I'm sure Darren's not doing this, which is or somebody said that. We're absolutely accurate. But Samantha's our resource for that. Bob, it's interesting because he's outsourcing some of this, right? So it's he's saying, hey, I have a need for social media that I don't have this expertise in house. My existing marketing group doesn't do that, so I'm finding this. What's the advice, Samantha or Allison, with respect to how much control somebody or how much involvement does the owner need to have in those relationships? Because I think there's the fear that it's like, because we've all been sort of promised, hey, we'll do this for you. Send us some money, and they're doing things, but is it really on target? Does it fit in with that SWOT analysis, with that corporate vision mission, with the type of messaging you want with your clients? And what are your thoughts there?
I would think that it's important for them to have a really good understanding of the overall strategy and how they fit into that, and how the work that they're doing and that you're outsourcing to them aligns with that overall strategy and the goal. I would also think I don't have a ton of experience outsourcing stuff like that. I've did like little projects here and there, but not ongoing work. But I would think that it would be really important to have like a regular check-in kind of meeting, like you would with any other employee or team member, to just kind of have that. Maybe you're not checking the work that they're doing on a daily basis or that sort of thing, but if you have like a bi-weekly check-in, so that you can ask questions like, how does that content align with the strategy? So You just make sure that everything is working the way that it's supposed to, and hopefully you find someone who's really good at what they do and who gets it, and who you can trust to run your social media accounts without ruining your reputation.
Right.
When I talk to people about working on their business versus working in their business, that's one of the keys, right? You can't outsource working on your business. You can't outsource doing the strategic planning and doing the SWOT analysis and setting those goals. That needs to be you, and it needs to be you and a group of, your business partners or your trusted top level people. Once you break it down and set those goals and you get to the part where you're talking about tactics, that's where you can start to outsource some of those tactics. So if you have the background, the foundation laid with the planning done by you, your goals are set, you know where it is you're trying to go, and you've done some thinking about how you're going to get there, that's when you can start to outsource with, okay, this is what we want to do, and I just need to outsource somebody to do it now. So,
David, you put your hand up?
Yeah, I was just gonna share, I think it might be good background for anybody that's interested, but our journey. So, we probably started getting heavy into marketing and messaging and that kind of thing, maybe 15-ish years ago. And it originally started, it was just me, and I was pulling content from the rest of the team and that kind of thing. And it was all very hands-on and very time consuming and difficult. So then we outsourced some of that a little bit, and it was okay. But again, I felt, I needed to have hands-on, and so I did. And when I didn't, the messaging was pretty bland and pretty generic. And it reminds me of these things you can join where it's like, oh, well, we'll do an accounting newsletter for you, and all you got to do is put your name on it. And it's like, okay, but then it sounds technical, and it sounds like it's not you, right? It's not us, and it's and then we outsourced, and like I say, it was okay, but they also didn't quite know our business well. And when we went to internally source that work and hired the person before Samantha and then Samantha, I mean, that was a game changer, to be honest, because Samantha, although she knew nothing about accounting 3.5 years ago, now knows an awful lot about accounting, and now knows an awful lot about what we do. And that's so important in the messaging, that she understands what we do, what our culture is, how we like to communicate, and all those different things. And I don't think you get that from outsourcing. I think that only can happen internally. And if you have to, in my opinion, if you have to hire somebody who's 0.3 or 0.5, or you can hire a full-timer and find other things for them to do or whatever, I mean, that to me is the way to go. I think outsourcing just doesn't quite get you there.
Bob? You were off mute a bit ago, and okay, I'll
yeah, to David's point, you really have to be on top of the messaging and have to be hands-on if you're going to outsource, which I have. And the pre-meeting on hiring this Content Collective is their name, a couple of ladies that specialize in just content, okay? And it was half a day sitting in our office going through, like you're saying, David, the culture of the company, the staff, our goals, everything surrounding the company, including the product that we're marketing. Like they have to know a little tidbit about everything. Samantha, you mentioned accounting, right? With these ladies are now learning blogging. They first started with us saying, well, no, we know social media, we have our programs, we don't really need to know each little bit about each business. And I says, if you're going to market the product to the customer in a high level way, you're going to have to learn a little bit about the product. And so 2 or 3 meetings after that, it's happened. But it's more like you're saying, David, it's the hands-on. They need to know your business if you're going to outsource.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Bob. Just to add something on, or talk about my story a little bit like David just did, but I do believe that, we're similarly supported with a franchise system above us with the hair salon business. So I rely on about a third of our content to come from them. You know, they provide a lot of content, but like I want only a third of their stuff. I want a third of our stuff, and then I want a third of our customers' stuff. So similar to Samantha's 3 pillars, we invest in processes and technologies to figure out how to get our third and our clients participating in their third. And so we don't have to rely only on the marketing coming from corporate, we'll call it, because corporate messaging seems very corporate. It's not, it's great, it's beautiful, but it's not organic, it's not local. It looks like it's done from a corporate headquarters, right? So we put a lot of effort in making sure that we have our localness to it also. And so we try and find that healthy balance of a third, a third, a third. And so some of the technologies we use for that, like, you know, we use a social media manager called Ralio, and so we have that installed on all of our phones on our stylist team, and so they can take a before and after picture with the phone, upload it to the tool, and then they're done. They don't have to worry about any like verbiage, any effort. Like we pay for an AI implementation on that to actually read the photo and assess what could be potential words that go with that photo. So we train the AI inside of that software so that we can then post our third, and then we use the the Google reviews also has the ability for clients to post their third. And so we're effectively trying to figure out how do we do that with as minimal effort for me as possible, because I'm too busy. I don't have the space or time for it. However, it's important that it gets done. So I invest in those tools and processes. And I'll tell you, like, the unfortunate thing is, I think it was, I can't remember who said it. Maybe it was David or Allison, but this is a long process, right? We started this conversation 18 months ago, and now we're getting the results. We did not get the results at month 3. We did not get the results at month 6. We're wondering why the heck were we investing in these tools and trying to get these things moving. We could not measure the increments yet, right? They're too small, too minuscule, too hard to see. And then, you know, within 12 to 18 months is when we really start to see it. And now it's like through the roof. Like it's like our content library and is building with very minimal effort now. But it was a lot of like, what are we doing and how are we doing it 18 months ago?
Not only is it a long process, but it's a cyclical process, right? You're not ever going to be done.
It's hard, like, you know, and I thank the Phoenix board and those that are in my other groups that help me serve this also, because it's hard to keep that rhythm going when you don't see results yet. You don't see success yet. It's a long process, and you have to hope that you got the right navigated path to get there. It's you know, so I always enjoy outside perspectives in that, because I can't like perfect it 18 months from now. Like I need to hopefully see somebody can see around the corner ahead of me, and somebody can see, you know, the hill or the foothills that we have to get through before we can get to the mountain climb. So yeah. All right, we've got about 15 more minutes left, so really good opportunity for any Q&A, any questions, any more questions for Samantha or Allison. I think we've tried to keep this as interactive as possible. But Bob, I see you're off mute, and then maybe Raj, any thoughts or questions that you want to make sure we close off with?
What was the name of that program you mentioned that you tied into Google Reviews?
Ralio. It is,
how do you spell it?
RALLIO. Ralio.io, I think, or yeah, something like that. If you don't find it, Bob, ask Samantha, and I'll reply back to Samantha on one of the emails, and I'll make sure I get it to you.
Thank you. Last or one additional question. I don't want to take up everyone's time, but circling back also to Jeff, you mentioned about automated, probably not AI, but geo-targeting of Google reviews.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah, I didn't. It was not a successful attempt to what we did. Yeah, we in conjunction with a number of other franchise owners like us tried to go into something called YouTube. I think it was called YouTube X or YouTube Max. I think it was YouTube Max or Google Max. It was called Google Max, yeah. And they may have changed the name since they've been really attempting to figure out how to take content, publish it in ways in local settings that get people into our business. And so we attempted that. We did not find the success for our business, though. I'm not saying it wouldn't be successful for other businesses, but were you at one of the Phoenix sessions when I mentioned that? Is that where it came from?
No, you were mentioning about your Google reviews, and you get some positives, some negatives. But once they leave your premise, they get served with a Google review request.
Yeah, we've integrated somehow into our and I'm not the IT expert on this, but we integrated into our on our because we're using a cloud-based invoicing software. So when somebody completes an invoice on a haircut, completes the service, it triggers this text that goes straight to the customer. So it's integrated into our ERP, I guess you call it, or our point of sale system that it does that process. Yeah.
I know when I worked previously for Bell Media as a digital account manager, I wasn't the technical person who actually like set up the campaigns, but there were ways to geo-target. So for example, like we had a client who was a furniture store, and if somebody who fit their target kind of demographics went into any furniture store, they would be served ads for our client's store going forward. Or if they spent time online looking at furniture, they would be served ads for our client and that sort of thing. And there's also like lookalike targeting too. So if somebody matches an existing client's profile, but they're not yet a client, they can be targeted with your ads as well. So there are really, really cool and interesting things you can do with that sort of thing.
It's not too difficult either, to be honest with you. It's a lot easier than it sounds. Like we used to be able to geotag every time you left an RBC. So, and you could pick the like 6 that are around your business. If your main competitors, you want them to be within walking distance or whatever like that. It's pretty simple to do inside Google's ad services.
Yeah, I think that's slightly different than what Bob asked me for, but yeah, for us, we used our ERP, our point of sale software to do it. So we leveraged their ability to do it because I'm not smart enough. Like I don't know if I'd be able to figure out how to program like zaps to pick something up and move it over here and do something with it. Like so we held our point of sale software system to some degree of accountability to figure out how to make it happen.
And just a quick question. And you send them out you send a review request out to every customer that you generate an invoice for. How do you find that? Does a pure volume work out that it's the negatives, the positives outweigh the negatives?
Well, yeah, it's kind of outside the scope of the conversation, but I follow the Net Promoter Score system. And so, I essentially, we want to perform, where people enjoy us, right? So, if we're doing that well, I shouldn't be afraid of any review. Because on mass, I'm getting, my average is approaching 4.5 and more on Google 5 out of 5 reviews, right? And so, if we do good work, we put a lot of our effort into make sure we do good work. And in the hair salon business, that's not always easy to do because not everybody's hair ends up being good, unfortunately. There's too many factors that are outside our control, to make sure that everybody's hair was exactly what they thought it should look like. Because if somebody comes in with a picture, says, I want this, we have to be realistic in saying your hair is never going to look like that. We'll do our best, but it's not always going to look like the picture you brought in. And so, yeah, I think that, we all of us have to make sure we're focused heavily on, do good work, so that I wouldn't be afraid of any of my customers giving a Google review. And I'm as excited to get a bad review as a good review, right? It allows us an opportunity to learn more about how to be better. So I'm not trying to disguise or eliminate the bad reviews. Everybody gets the opportunity to give me a review. Rosh, any thoughts, questions, anything you need to make sure that we've had a great 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 meeting today?
Yeah, for sure. I'll do a Google review. No, this was awesome, actually. It had lots of content, and I just said it's, for marketing neophytes is a little bit overwhelming, but the content, this was amazing here. So I don't have additional questions, but yeah, I just look forward to the blog and those tools. So
Good stuff.